Hi, welcome to the Untitled Astrology full moon forecast for September 13th, 2019. The moon is waxing. The energy is growing. How are you feeling? The moon is waxing and waxing, and on September 13th at 9:33 p.m. Pacific time, the moon will have reached its culmination, the end of the Purnima Tithi, and begin to wane again. My name is Kari Field. I'm a Vedic astrologer, and I do full moon and new moon readings and tarot readings. And in case you were missing me last week, I'm in India. I'm back in India, and I got separated from my computer for a few weeks, which was maybe for the best because I was studying up in Bhimtal, Nainital in the mountains. I was studying mantra shastra and astrology. So I'm back now. I got my computer back, and at the moment I'm in Delhi, New Delhi, and I'm heading down to Kerala to the Amritapuri ashram in a couple of days. But I thought I'd just do a quick video about this full moon coming up. There's a lot of shifts that are happening in the next couple of weeks as well. So we're going to talk about them and do a tarot reading at the end. So I did actually record the new moon video, but I never got it published because the computer was in transit to me. So I am going to actually publish that old new moon video. I thought I might as well right before I probably put this one up. It still applies for a lot of what's going on now too. You might want to check that reading out as well. So this is the last full moon of the summer season in the northern hemisphere. Anyway, in the southern Australia, it's the last full moon of winter because it's falling right before the equinox. The equinox is kind of the tipping point, the balancing point between darkness and light, night and day, right? So this is always a big changing point in the seasons, the life cycles of this planet. A harvest. It's actually called the harvest moon. So it's a time for pulling things together, celebrating how you've grown, perhaps, how things are changing, harvesting, evaluating, and letting go as well. This one was on Friday the 13th in California, I think, in Mountain Time and Central in the United States. But it's on September 14th here in India and in Europe. But yeah, Friday the 13th is that day that people tend to consider unlucky, but actually it's an ancient day celebrating the goddess Freya, or Venus. Friday is ruled by Venus. So the number 13 also is a very sacred number of the goddess. So this is a powerful time to connect with the divine feminine energy as well. The full moon's going to be in the area of the sky called Purva Bhadrapada. Purva Bhadrapada is a nakshatra, a lunar mansion that's particular to Vedic astrology, and it is actually in the area of the great square of Pegasus. Encompasses part of Aquarius and Pisces, the fire that elevates consciousness. Because this area of Pegasus, that constellation of Pegasus, it actually looks like a square, is a funeral cot that's used to carry a body to the cremation grounds. So it really does have a lot to do with endings, which is why both Purva Bhadrapada and its pair Uttara Bhadrapada have this theme of endings and burning. They're called the fiery pair, and they're at the end of the zodiac as well. So it is a lot about ending cycles, right? Which makes sense for a harvest moon, about cutting and gathering and collecting what you've done and getting ready for transformation into a new season. The deity that rules Purva Bhadrapada is this very mysterious deity called Aja Ekapada, which means something like a one-footed one or one-footed goat, kind of like standing in tree pose, one-footed form of Lord Shiva. And it's also connected to the Naga snakes, these powerful tantric snakes, these ancient entities of life, primal life, that live under the surface of the earth, at the core of the earth, and support life on this planet. So this is a a very deep and powerful full moon, especially also because it's joining pretty closely the distant planet Neptune. Now, Neptune is one of these planets that we didn't know about until recently, so it's not in part of the Vedic astrology repertoire so much. You know, we don't talk about that usually, since there's no reference to Neptune directly in the older texts. But Neptune is a very mystical influence that I've seen really does carry through in a lot of transits and horoscopes of people as well. Neptune creates a lot of deep insight and emotional sensitivity as well. So this is a kind of an emotional full moon. And also Neptune is sort of this sort of thinning of the veil, this sort of kind of heightened awareness of what's happening at times, but also sort of a dreaminess. It can also trigger very vivid dreams, or you can get information from dreams at this time, insight. Now Mars is combust still, it's combust the sun, meaning that it's really deep in the rays of the sun, we can't see it. Mars is this energy of fire and like the spiritual warrior Mars right now. And since he's so close to the sun, he's directly aspecting this full moon. And this can, you know, with the Neptune there, it's a pretty interesting combination where I feel like it is a lot about visualizing higher spiritual states, having the courage to kind of fight for what you believe in or what your dreams are. I think it can be a very uplifting full moon if you use it in a way that is connected to your emotional body and your sense, and keep a sense of positivity. Now that sense of positivity is really important, right? Because this Saturn K2 thing that's been going on since March, it's still happening, and it's very powerful right now because Saturn is slowing down to a complete halt, where he's just kind of digging his heels into Purva Ashada, that nakshatra. Saturn is stationing direct on September 18th, but he's really just not moving at all, even now, because he goes so very slow as he stations direct. And so this is a time where there can be an extra heaviness, perhaps. There can be like a sort of a strange feeling around time, where time might slow down or maybe speed up and slow down in different ways, where it's hard to kind of manage time as well, it could be. And general unrest and stress that we've been feeling over the last months, the Saturn influence has a lot to do with it. Now the great thing about Saturn and K2 together is they do facilitate spiritual breakthroughs and maturity. They help create a lot of growth in that area, depending how it's aspecting your natal chart. And if you're running a dasha of Saturn or of K2, if you want to learn more about this influence and the stationing Saturn, if you know you're running one of these dashas especially, reach out to me and find out more. I offer one-on-one readings, Vedic astrology readings, and tarot readings. You can click the link below to book a reading with me here in India. Just leading up to this full moon, we've got a little bit of a what they call a planetary war, Graha Yuddha, between Mercury and Venus, which might feel a little bit like a little Mercury retrograde or something, where miscommunication, delay, there can be, especially because it's Venus causing the inhibition, there can be a hard time maybe expressing feelings or kind of figuring out how you feel, maybe over-analyzing how you're feeling perhaps. So be careful of misunderstandings in relationships or any kind of agreements or contracts you have in these days leading up to the full moon and the day right after. I think it'll end around September 14th. We've been celebrating Ganesha here in India, Lord Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, the one with the elephant head. The final day of this festival is going to be the day before the full moon, the 14th lunar day. On this day, people take idols or images that they've made or they have of Lord Ganesha that are made of clay, and they immerse it in lakes or rivers with a lot of ceremony and ritual and respect as a way of celebrating how the circles of life happen, just as like the clay dissolves in the water, all life is always changing forms and going back to this, to Ganga, back to the water, back to the source. And they say that Lord Ganesha returns again the next year, always. So the source of life is always returning and remaining the same. So this idea of connecting to what is true, what is unified for you, what's the source, is really important at this, I think, on this full moon as well. So let's just see quickly what the tarot cards have to say about this full moon in Purva Bhadrapada. Okay. Well, okay, the first card that came up is the Three of Swords. This is just one of the most kind of heartbreaking cards in the deck, and I really think it has got a lot to do with this Saturn station that we're having. When Saturn's slow and deep like this, it can really cut into maybe parts of us that we have been trying to ignore or not face up to issues maybe that need to be grieved and faced and integrated. There's a lot of karma in Saturn, and this moon is in Aquarius in the sidereal system, which is traditionally ruled by Saturn. And this Saturn's not only is it stationing, but it's also making a direct dristi, meaning a direct Vedic aspect onto the moon. So there is a very heavy, and it can be kind of emotional because of Neptune there as well. So the next card has to do with the sun and the source, as I was talking to you about, the source of life, that infinite source of fire, of purification, and the source that we return to. And this is the Ace of Cups, that new beginning, the rebirth, totally new, totally clean, in Ganga, dissolved, reborn. The heaviness of old patterns of karma, of relationship attachments, or attachments to ideas. Don't play the victim anymore. You can put your burdens into the river, burn them up on the funeral pyre. Let go. The source, the infinite and supreme, unified truth of who we are will always remain the same. It's the place that we're all connected to each other. The sun, the Atma, the Dharma that keeps everything in order and always brings us back to be reborn again. Thanks for joining me on the Ananda Shri Astrology Full Moon Forecast for August 13th, Friday the 13th, or 14th, depending on where you are in the world. I am available here in my part of the world at the moment in India for readings if you'd like to speak to me one-on-one. you can book a reading below. I'll put a link in the description window, and also while you're at it, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't, or get on my newsletter if you you're not on that. I do write blogs too. I spend a lot of time writing these blogs for people who would rather read about the astrology, and it's a great reference. So check that out too. I'll put a link in the description window. And take care. I will see you soon on the next new moon.